uppercut, uppercut, sonic boom.
So, is the Scar L in fact better than the M416? Because that's kind of a crazy thing to say for most of the player base. In fact, most of the player base would tell you that the M416 is the best gun in the game. I have a real love affair for the Scar L, and it's for one reason in particular. I find it to be incredibly good with a red dot out to long ranges that you really wouldn't expect it to be good at. And because of that, I use the Scar L over the M416 all the time. But what exactly is the reason for this? And how exactly can you get the most out of the Scar L? And why is it not a crazy thing to say that the Scar L is better than the M416? Well, if you want to know all of these things, stick around and you're going to find out. Now, before we get too deep into the weeds, how about a subscribe? How about a like? How about a comment? Let me know what you want to see, what you think of the videos, and your opinion on whether the M416 or the Scar L is a better ripper. Watch the video and have a look at my loadout when I'm running the Scar L, and you're going to note something. I am running the Scar L primarily as my first slot weapon. I'm using the Scar L for all my close quarters needs as a full auto AR. And that's a really important distinction to make here. Because for a lot of people, the M416 is the weapon that allows them to run other weapons like a DBS or a UMP. For me, I find the Scar L locks me into fewer loadouts. Bear with me, and we'll get to exactly why this is. Lovely little jump compound ripper there. Hey, the whole thing with the Scar L is that it is more suited to close quarters engagements than the M416. It has slightly more damage, and I say slightly and I mean slightly. It's about 2.5–3% more damage than an M416. And this might sound like nothing to the uneducated, but PUBG Mobile is about breakpoints. When you're shooting someone with a Scar L and you're hitting a level 2 vest, it takes 4 shots to clear, because that tiny little bit more damage, that tiny little bit more damage means that your damage in a level 2 vest goes over 25. And the tiny bit less damage from an M416 means the damage to a level 2 vest goes under 25. So it takes an M4 5 shots to clear a level 2 vest, and it takes the Scar L 4 shots to clear. Now, that's in a perfect world. There are situations where that is not going to make the blindest bit of difference. But those are not the situations you run for. You see, this gun is just more suited to CQC than the M416 is. And yet, if you were running it purely as a spray weapon, as many people run the M416, it is a secondary backup switch weapon and a spray weapon, then you're going to get less value out of a Scar L. So in that situation, your M4 is maybe better. But the Scar L does something for me that I find quite fascinating. I'm going to show you some shots of me on the range here. And this is one of the reasons why I always love running the Scar L with like a red dot. This is your standard about 30–35 meters range. This is where the Scar L is super effective, because same bullet speed as an M4, it doesn't really miss any shots, and it has slightly more damage. So winning, it's beating the M4 there. And I'm not like crouched down or lying down or anything. I'm just standing up. Like, that's fine. And it's not as good as spraying with a 3X or a 6X as an M4. But that's a 250 meter target. And I'm using a red dot with a Scar L, and I am shredding it. I am hitting plenty of shots on that target. Because I find with a red dot, the Scar L, if you get your sensitivity right, is absolutely crackerjack, regardless of the range. So if you're running a Scar, and I love running it with a 2X as well, excuse me, if you're running a Scar as your primary weapon, it's a better CQC weapon than an M4. And the fall off as a spray weapon for me is negligible, and it allows me to run a bolt action as my secondary slot weapon and actually use it effectively, because I hate running DBSs and I hate running a UMP over the top of a bolty. But there are just moments where you have to do that. See, that's a particularly hard shot to hit. 150 meters, there's just a little head poking up above a rooftop. And a SCAR can do that. It really can do that. And it can do it in a way that I think is better than the way the M4 does it. Now, it's just not higher damage on your shots to the chest. It obviously has a higher base damage on headshots. A no helmet target will take 96.5. It'll take 94.0 from an M416. That's important because when you get up towards the end of the game, targets will generally hit a 75% heal, and then they will hit boosts, and those boosts will tick them up. People will start peaking again as they approach 100, or they won't always be full health, particularly in modes like Ultimate Royale, where the tiniest bit of difference is in the margins. Like the real winning margins are so small. So you can hit, say, a level 1 helmet, do 67.5 at the SCAR L, and then do a level 1 vest and do 29.4, and you've nearly wiped the target. But you're not going to quite get there with an M416. These are the numbers you win and die by. Like, for anyone who says, well, that just doesn't make any difference, you're crazy. How many times have you lost a gunfight and you go and look at the other guy and you can't even see his hit point bar, right? Well, that's what I'm talking about. It just does more. It has a higher number. And you don't lose out on the back end. I am still absolutely fine with the SCAR L as a hipfire weapon in CQC. Is it as good as the M416? I don't think so. But you can run a laser scope on a SCAR L, a laser sight in the SCAR L, and improve its hipfire performance? Absolutely. We're talking about 5.56 ARs here, though. Like, the SCAR and the M4 are such easy dubs when it comes to CQC and to actually hitting your target. And if you're an ADS player like I am, the SCAR L is gorgeous. Running a red dot or a 2X. And could I just say, if you don't use the 2X, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's one of the most underrated scopes in PUBG Mobile. Metalcore put me onto the 2X ages ago. I had a real love affair with the DP28 and a 2X. And I found that if I'm going to run any scope with a SCAR L, I feel like a 3's too much. And I feel like a 2 or a red dot gets me the most value for money. I'm not saying you can't spray with a 3. Obviously, you can spray with a 3. But I don't like getting stuck in situations where I'm ADSing quickly. And I mean, this is the only negative, really. The periscope. It's got the worst iron sights in the game. Like, well, that's not fair. The FAMAS has the worst iron sights for a game. And Daylight's second. The periscope is much better than the FAMAS. But I don't like ADSing in with a 3X when they're inside of 50 meters. And the problem I have with that is if I can't find, and I do use the canted sight. I use the canted sight all the time, in fact. If I can't find a canted sight, then I've got to switch it between the red dot and the 3X on the fly. And that's not great. And the other thing is, I find if I'm at extreme ranges with the SCAR L, I just tap fire. See that there? Like, let's watch that again. Because really, this is exactly what I'm talking about as an ADS player. These are the moments where you just pucker up. This guy has a drop on me. We don't get a headshot. We clear him with chest shots and I have no health left. I have a tiny smidgen of health. If I take one more shot, I'm dead. So that's my take on the SCAR L versus M416. I think the M416 is an incredible weapon and, you know, it works really, really, really well. Now, obviously, the numbers are in. People love the thing. What I don't think the M416 is a CQC weapon that's as good as the SCAR. And if you're running an M416 as a secondary weapon, that's fair enough. But that's not your primary. The SCAR is good enough to be a primary CQC weapon in a way that is just a smidgen better than M4 is. And for me, that's enough. That's enough to get me across the line. I don't want to be stuck running a gun that I have to have something else to rely on for my CQC. And This for me is just so much more reliable. It's not as good as that gun there, the UMP, obviously. It's not as good as a DBS at 2 meters. What is? It's not as good as a Mark 14 or any of those things. But it is a superb weapon that when you give it a chance, it will shine. And it loves the red dot ADS. It really, really does. You can spray with it, and you can spray with it a lot better at range than you should be able to with a red dot, a holographic, whatever the case may be. And if I'm going to be using a 4X on it, I'm using it like a Mini 14. You can hit so many shots on it. It's got 900 meters a second bullet speed. It's got slightly more damage than an M416, which means your damage drop of over range gets compensated for more. And you can still spray it. It's just, I find I hit more shots with a 4X tapping with a Scar L than I do otherwise. Look after yourselves. Stay safe in the battlefield. Remember to like the video and subscribe. And until next time, bye for now.